So just be in your senses. As you just rest in your senses and just enjoy doing the form, kind of like taking a ride. You should feel like your pelvis is sitting on a scooter. If you want a cooler ride, then you can have a cooler ride, but anyways. And you should feel like you're just being taken on a ride. Your arms are kind of just moving by themselves. And you're just in your senses and you can feel your body being moved. You feel the wind in your hair. But if you over-focus on a sense, you'll feel that that's just irritation. Like you'll notice that you're focusing on things that you don't want happening. Whereas if you're in your senses, you will just have awareness. You'll be like, And the next time you do the same move, it will correct by itself. But if you focus on doing something or not, then we become myopic and we lose the rest of the body. That's terrible. Because if we lose the rest of the body, then we don't know whether the part that we're focusing on within the context of the rest of our body is actually anywhere where it's supposed to be. We're supposed to move in an aligned way, and how can we move in an aligned way if we're just focusing on, let's say for instance, the wrist and trying to get the angle of the wrist right, when we're not actually sensing the wrist from the rest of our body, our wrist, our elbows, our shoulders, our spine, our pelvis, our knees, our ankles, and our foot, and our head, especially our head. Our body points in the direction our head goes. And so, by being in your senses, being in your senses, not focusing on your senses or thinking about it, all of a sudden, we start having wisdom, just kind of a knowing as to what needs to be done. It just either feels natural and relaxed or it doesn't. So don't try and remember. You will be remembered. Or remembering will come and make you remember. As you do the form, the things you need to remember will come to you. As you not feel some things, like as you're doing it, if you're like, that doesn't feel right, then you'll be like, that's right, there was that correction and didn't feel like that correction and didn't feel as good or as natural. Trying to remember something is stressful. You're not even really checking your body or even looking at what you're supposed to be looking at, because you're looking at whatever is in your mind, which is not real. But if you are in your senses, just sensing, and being in your senses, then you naturally remember. The memory is called back by association. All the things that you're corrected, it comes to you. Now, that doesn't mean, of course, that you shouldn't use your mind. The mind is there for a reason. And, I have all of my students write down the moves that you remember. But the reason I have people write things down is actually a little different. It's so that you can reference and you can remember accurately when you're just looking at it. But when you practice, you should look at your notes and then let go and then practice and see whether it happens in your body. There's a difference. In some ways you can say, I have people write things down for two different reasons. One, so that they can let go, so that they don't try and remember. Because if you write it down, most likely you'll never look at your notes. Because you have this confidence, oh, it's written down. And some of you may find out that when you do try and reference your notes, how terrible they are. And that you don't really know what you wrote down. And you'll be like, oh, I gotta write better notes, and you should. Because one of the second reason I have people write down notes is so that we don't have to argue. So that, because it's very often it happens, well, Master Kim, you told me this. And I'm like, well, no, let's look at your notes. And the notes exonerate me. But having said that, so they're actually not for the reasons people think they are. It's so that one, you can actually let go, and two, so that you can check with more accuracy if you need to. Because the conscious mind does all kinds of weird things with memory. But when you're actually doing the form, then you shouldn't think. You should just be in your senses.